We welcome you to the First Unitarian Universalist Church of Columbus. I am Jan Phillips.
And I am Billy Davidson.
We are First UU's co-chairs of the Board of Trustees. We gather in the homelands of the Adena, the Hopewell, the Wyandotte, the Miami, and the Seneca, and the Cayuga peoples. Let us not forget that when white settlers arrived, native peoples were forced off their land, killed, and subjected to this day to broken treaties. We have inherited this legacy, continue to add to this legacy, and collectively have agency to address this legacy. Let us take a moment of silence together to consider how we value and respect the indigenous peoples and their culture in this place that we also call home.
Whether you come from Columbus, from Richmond, Virginia, or from somewhere else, we welcome you on this glorious August day to this grand occasion, the ordination of Kelli McNeal into ministry. On behalf of Kelli, we want to thank you all for being here to help us celebrate.
Good afternoon. I am Deborah Gray Boyd, and I serve the First Unitarian Universalist Church of Columbus as treasurer. I want to welcome you to our worship center today.
And I'm Denise Rhymes, and I serve the First Unitarian Universalist Church of Richmond as president of the congregation. I want to welcome those of you who are joining us online, especially my fellow congregants joining us right now in Richmond, where Kelli completed a very fine ministerial internship. Together, along with the rest of our team on the chancel, we had the privilege of serving on the Joint Ordination Committee to host this ordination. Ordination is the sacred duty of congregations in our tradition. This is where we formalize with ritual the decisions that our respective congregations have made.
The First Unitarian Universalist Church of Columbus voted at a mid-year meeting to ordain Kelli.
And First UU Richmond's Board of Trustees voted this spring to ordain Kelli. Joint ordinations aren't typical, but they aren't rare either. Both congregations have been central in Kelli's formation into UU ministry.
You may notice the statement across the front of your order of service, "Love your people." This was one of the central teachings of Reverend Jean Pupke, who served as the senior minister of the UU Richmond congregation during Kelli's internship. And it is this central tenet of ministry to which Kelli is making a promise today.
Reverend Pupke was going to preach the sermon at Kelli's ordination last spring, but as many gathered here know, she died unexpectedly this past spring, just a week before Kelli's planned ordination. In many traditions, an empty chair sits at the front of the sanctuary on the chancel to remind those gathered of all those who have gone before. The wooden rocking chair here in the front symbolize the love and care of all of those near to each of us gathered here. People who are central to our formation into Unitarian Universalism and life, and all those who are not with us, who have been central to Kelli's journey, but particularly Reverend Jean and is one of her stoles that you see draped across the rocking chair.
To quote another freshly minted minister I know, ministry is all the things all the time, which strikes me as a rebranding of the old adage, joy and sorrow are woven fine. We gather with joy and sorrow, anticipation and tribulation, but above all, we gather in support and with gratitude and love as Kelli accepts the mantle of ministerial authority that our congregations are placing on her shoulders today. Welcome to the joint in-person and online ordination of the soon-to-be Kelli McNeal.
Welcome to one and all, and especially Kelli's brother and parents here on the chancel, her grandparents, Don and Marge, and to her wonderful extended family. Sorry. Each time Unitarian Universalists gather, we consecrate our time together by lighting a chalice. With this light of love, we remember from whence we came, and we center ourselves together in this present moment. Today is an extraordinary day because we gather with special purpose of affirming the ordination of Kelli McNeal. Every year, on August 27th, for the rest of Kelli's life, she will remember what we do here today. She will re-experience your love, support, and fellowship. May we all join together, near and far, in the spirit of joy, commitment, and love. May we see this fire of love, first lit in Kelli by her family, burning in the minister and person Kelli has become today, and burning henceforward and forever in the minister and person she will continue to become.
And now it is time for all ages. I'm Amber Scott, the Director of Religious Exploration here at First UU Columbus, and my pronouns are she, they. Our story today is called Frederick by Leo Leone. All along the meadow where the cows grazed and the horses ran, there was an old stone wall. In that wall, not far from the barn and the granary, a chatty family of field mice had their home. But the farmers had moved away. The barn was abandoned and the granary stood empty. And since winter was not far off, the little mice began to gather corn and nuts and wheat and straw. They all worked day and night, all except Frederick. Frederick, why don't you work? They asked. I do work, said Frederick. I gather sun rays for the cold, dark winter days. And when they saw Frederick sitting there, staring at the meadow, they said, "And now, Frederick?" "I gather colors," answered Frederick simply, "for winter is gray." And once Frederick seemed half asleep. "Are you dreaming, Frederick?" they asked reproachfully. But Frederick said, "Oh no, I am gathering words, for winter days are long and many, and we'll run out of things to say." The winter days came, and when the first snow fell, the 5 little field mice took to their hideout in the stones. In the beginning, there was lots to eat, and the mice told stories of foolish foxes and silly cats. They were a happy family. But little by little, they had nibbled up most of the nuts and berries. The straw was gone, and the corn was only a memory. It was cold in the wall, and no one felt like chatting. Then they remembered what Frederick had said about sun rays and colors and words. "What about your supplies, Frederick?" they asked. "Close your eyes," said Frederick as he climbed on a big stone. "Now I send you the rays of the sun. Do you feel how their golden glow?" And as Frederick spoke of the sun, the 4 little mice began to feel warmer. Was it Frederick's voice? Was it magic? "And how about the colors, Frederick?" they asked anxiously. "Close your eyes again," Frederick said. And when he told them of the blue periwinkles, the red poppies and the yellow wheat, and the green leaves on the berry bush, they saw the colors as clearly as if they had been painted in their minds. "And the words, Frederick?" Frederick cleared his throat, waited a moment, and then, as if from a stage, he said, "Who scatters snowflakes? Who melts the ice? Who spoils the weather? Who makes it nice? Who grows the 4-leaf clovers in June? Who dims the daylight? Who lights the moon? 4 little field mice who live in the sky. 4 little field mice, like you and I. One is the spring mouse who turns on the showers. Then comes the summer who paints in the flowers. The fall mouse is next with walnuts and wheat. And winter is last with little cold feet. Aren't we lucky the seasons are 4? Think of a year with 1 less or 1 more. When Frederick had finished, they all applauded. "Frederick," they said, "you are a poet." Frederick blushed, took a bow, and said shyly, "I know it." The end. In this story, Frederick shows us that there are many ways to love your people. By sharing his poetic gifts and inspired view of the world with his family, Frederick helped everyone to endure a bleak and difficult winter. The other field mice gave Frederick their trust and support, even though his preparations looked very different. We all have our own ways of doing things and unique gifts to share, just as it takes many words to write a poem that will warm the heart.
This profession and calling that Kelli is entering into can provide great personal satisfaction and meaning, as well as a lot of frustration and heartbreak. And in addition, it's not exactly known for paying that well, despite its intensive requirements for education and preparation. And so whenever we ordain a new minister, we also recognize the cost of ministry. Later in the service, the charge to the minister and the charge to the congregation will speak more about the intangible costs. But we also have to recognize the financial cost, and it is significant. And as Unitarian Universalists, we want to be ministered to by people of diverse backgrounds, people of every race, ethnicity, gender, sexuality, ability, shape, and class. And so we have a responsibility to ensure that class is not a determining factor in who can and who cannot begin or continue in ministry. Beyond covenanting to pay our religious professionals fairly, one of the biggest ways we try to do this as the Unitarian Universalist Association is through the Living Tradition Fund. This fund goes to need-based scholarships for seminarians, to new minister assistants, and emergency assistance to religious professionals and those in the process of becoming religious professionals. This is indeed a justice issue, and ordinations and installations are one of the main ways that this fund is provided for. And speaking of justice issues, there is so much at stake for every area of social justice in the upcoming midterm elections, for reproductive freedom, for climate justice, for racial justice, and the list goes on and on. So Kelli has asked that our offering today would go to the Living Tradition Fund as well as to UU the Vote, which organizes UUs across the country and on state and local levels to fight for fair elections, advance voting rights, protect abortion access, and resist the targeting and criminalization of Black, Indigenous, and people of color communities. I ask you in this moment to please open your hearts. Think about what kind of religious community you want to be a part of. Think about what kind of country you want to be a part of. And then open your wallet or your smartphone. I have my check made out here. And make the best gift that you can in honor of Kelli and in honor of Unitarian Universalist ministry to help make the kind of religious community and the kind of country that you believe in. And as we pass the basket, both physically and virtually, Nathan has quite a treat for us.
stay. The romance of the loner is the power of one. You know, it takes the power of many to get anything done. Anything beyond the nose upon your face. Love has brought me here. Oh, what's gonna help me to stay? No one is an island. No one is a stone. Nothing worth doing can be done alone. Not alone. No, alone. No one is an island. No one is a stone. Nothing worth doing can be done alone. Not alone. No, alone. Rush the new arrivals late to the stage. Whatever got you to this door, whatever brought you this way, from that stumbling, humbling parade. Love has brought us here. Oh, love's gonna help us to stay. Love has brought us here. Oh, love's gonna help us. Love is gonna help us. Love is gonna help us to say.
Good afternoon. The reading that has been chosen for me is Human's Core Function is Love by Adrienne Maury Brown. When we are engaged in acts of love, we humans are at our best and most resilient. The love in romance that makes us want to be better people. The love of children that makes us want to change our whole lives to meet their needs. The love of family that makes us drop everything to take care of them. The love of community that makes us work tirelessly with broken hearts. Perhaps humans' core function is love. Love leads us to observe in a much deeper way than any other emotion. If love were the central practice of a new generation of organizers and spiritual leaders, it would have a massive impact. if the goal was to increase the love rather than winning or dominating a constant opponent, I think we could actually imagine liberation from constant oppression. We would suddenly be seeing everything we do, everyone we meet, not through the tactical eyes of war, but through the eyes of love. Would see that there is no such thing as a blank canvas, an empty land, or a new idea, but everywhere there is a complex, ancient, fertile ground full of potential. We would understand that the strength of our movement is the strength of our relationships, which could only be measured by their depth. Scaling up would mean going deeper, being more vulnerable, and more empathetic. I invite all to sing as we are led by the First UU Church of Richmond Choir on the video. You may remain seated.
To Kelly, Jay, Kelly's family and friends, my esteemed colleagues, members of First UU of Columbus, First UU of Richmond, and our pulpit chancellor, I forgot I'm not in the Baptist church anymore. My chancel participant, good afternoon. You can say good afternoon. I am the Reverend Sherman Logan, and I serve the First Unitarian Universalist Church of Richmond, Virginia, as its acting senior minister. Thank you. And I'm honored that my friend Kelly asked me to offer the sermon on this special occasion of her ordination. Kelly, my friends, there are few words that can describe the excitement and joy that I'm feeling for you at this moment. My heart is overflowing with love for you. You see, I was with you at the beginning of the process when you were our social justice intern and bookkeeper at the Richmond congregation. And we spent many hours talking about church budgets, church finances, and ministry as you were discerning your call to Unitarian Universalist ministry. And you know, we are sort of kindred spirits. We both attended Baptist seminaries. We grew up as Christians, and we found our way through Unitarian Universalist by employment. You see, I started as the church business manager there. So our paths to UU ministry were very similar. Your transition to ministry didn't happen overnight, and you move slowly during the sermon process, carefully balance your family life with your professional goal. And this came slowly. You faced many challenges along the way. However, you handle your journey with grace, determination, and devotion to your call. And in a few moments, you will become an ordained Unitarian Universalist minister. This is indeed a happy day and a special day. I am extremely happy for you. Well done, my friend. So when Kelli shared with me the theme of her ordination service, love your people, I wonder, where have I heard that before? Well, every intern trained and mentored by Reverend Jean Pupke, every colleague who served with her, every religious professional who worked with her have heard that mantra, you got to love your people. As a matter of fact, during my first interview for my position at First UU, after exchanging pleasantries, asking questions about my employment, Reverend Jean saw that I served as a minister of the Baptist Church, and she asked, do you love your people? 14 years later, I still remember that question and my reaction. So you know, they say there's no such thing as a foolish question. So I thought to myself, this gets as close as you can get. So I thought it was a trick question, a got-you question. Do I love my people? I thought, what does she expect me to say? No, I hate people, but I love preaching and ministry. Now, of course, especially my Richmond friends, you know I didn't say that out loud. And my response to Reverend Jean was, yes, ma'am, I most certainly do love the people that I serve. I wouldn't have been a minister as long as I had if I didn't love them. And as the years passed, I realized that Reverend Jean's question wasn't inappropriate at all. It was a crucial question that should be asked to all people entering the ministry and those of us who have been serving congregations for years. Do you love your people? Love your people, and that's a big deal. Loving others is the foundation of most world religion traditions. And loving your people isn't simply an emotion or feeling or obligation. And as Unitarian Universalists, we respond to the call of love because it is our common theological core. It is what can and does motivate us and illuminate our deepest commitment to each other. And every Sunday morning at many of our congregations, we recite the covenant beginning with these words. Love is a doctrine of this congregation. I believe that's a reminder that loving our people is what we as Unitarian Universalists are called to do. Now, my colleagues can attest to this. We know that sometimes loving our congregants feel easy, and other times, and maybe most of the time, this feel really hard. Anything involving other people has hardships because people know how to get on each other's nerves, disagree on things, place matter of importance in varying orders, and subconsciously do something annoying or rude. And they subconsciously would do something mean and petty. Now, of course, there are complexities. The congregation can also become a hostile environment. It can become a source and a threat to our livelihoods. And sometimes there are people in our congregation who act unlovable. It may seem like you always are in a battle to give people grace. It is hard to give grace when you feel that it's undeserved or taken for granted. But if we remind ourselves that withholding grace from others only hurt them and ourselves. So, to my summer colleagues, the people in our congregation need not only our gifts, our time, our talents, our energy, but they also need our love. You see, we can work 50 or 60 hours in a week, preach and lead multiple meetings, visit people in their homes or in the hospital, attend scores of marches and get arrested, give our time and energy and our gifts. But if we don't love our people, we have nothing. It is the people in our congregation who know us, support our ministry, and care for us. And these people will sense when something is not right in our lives. These people will speak the truth to us when we don't want to hear it. This is why we got to love our people. So Kelli, it's important for you to love your people. Now I know that sounds like, well, duh. Of course I should. But you know, I've known ministers who were accomplished theologians, skilled orators who loved preaching and other aspects of ministry, but they didn't love people. So I believe it's important to love your people that we are called to serve. And it's also important that they know that you love them. This is especially true as you lead a church through the challenging times that we and our congregation live in today. So Kelli, love your people. Tell them you love them. Show them that you love them by giving them hope and inspiration. Love your people by holding them accountable for the times that they may act unlovable, but call them back in into covenant instead of calling them out. Bring out the best of them. Now, you know, an old preacher told me one time, he said, Sharon, the difference between a good shepherd and a bad shepherd is knowing and loving the sheep. So I know we youths are not known for herding sheep, but we are called to lead, and we are called to love those that we're called to lead. But if you allow me to be honest with you this afternoon, and you might not invite me back to preach here, but that's okay. We know that people are sometimes hard to lead. You know, for example, several years ago, I was just starting at my Baptist church. Matter of fact, it was the first Sunday after my ordination, and as I walked down one of the main hallways, I overheard a conversation between two senior adult ladies. They were talking about me and sizing me up, then offering their first impression and decided whether or not they were going to like me. But you know what? They had no idea that I was behind them, let alone that I could hear them. But over time, these ladies became two of my all-time favorite church members. But in the beginning, I had to love them, even though I wasn't sure if they liked me. I loved them anyway. And Kelli, there'll be times when you may disappoint some people or fail to live up to expectations. Now, some expectations are reasonable, others are not. Another church member told me that she was disappointed in me because I didn't call her when her mother died. So I explained to her, well, I didn't know your mother died, so why didn't you call the church? She told me she posted a death announcement on Facebook. I told her, I'm sorry, but I wasn't your Facebook friend, so there's no way that I could have known about your mother's death. Now, that is an unreasonable expectation. But the truth is, if I'd shown her that I loved her, she might have given me the benefit of the doubt. And from now on, I made sure that we are Facebook friends. Kelli, every member will have their own expectation after you are ordained. Some members may want you to preach more about voting rights and less about racial justice. Some may want you to preach more about Emerson and less about Black Lives Matter. And when you call to your first church, you may find there are 100 things, maybe 39 more that need to be changed. But at least one of those changes is going to disappoint somebody. So it would be important to let people know that you love them, but you will, at occasion, let them down. And as a new minister, at some point, you may be called to serve a congregation that is in desperate need of restoration. So you have to lead them to places that they may not want to go. And even when church members know that they need a new direction, they don't often fully understand what that means. They want change, but they also want things to remain the same. So when it comes that time, you need to remind them by saying, you know, I love you, right? They may be more willing to follow you if you show them that you love them. So it's important that you let your people know that you love them and let them love you. Now, I'm not trying to oversimplify this by telling you that your ministry would be successful if you just love your people. And I know this would be hard, and some days it would seem impossible, because people would expect you to love them in a whole range of things, and some of these ways will seem crazy to you at first, but you got to love them anyway. Some will want to smother you with attention, others may want to criticize you, and some would just want to spend time with you, to know you and walk with you. So let them make this a priority, and just let them know that you love them. And listen to the people who are close enough to feel your genuine affection. Let it sustain you and them, and let you be shaped by this love, and let them love you into the minister that you are called to be. Kelli, loving people would take hard work. But I also know giving yourself to your people can be scary, awkward, and risky. But you got to take the risk for the sake of love. And by doing so, your heart will become affectionately delirious to them, and you will give not only the love, but also your own self to them. And oh, I wish for more ministers that are kind-hearted, thoughtful, time-taking, loving people. Our people are starving for that. So model for them that kind of tender-hearted love, and I promise you it will pay dividends that you cannot comprehend. So let me close with this nugget of advice. Remember, the ministry is shared between you and the people that you are called to serve right here at First UU Columbus. It is a sacred dimension of your work. And before you are called to do anything else for your people, you are called to love them. And Unitarian Universalist needs ministers who deeply show that love for their people. So treat them kindly. Tell them you love them, even when there are times when they may act unlovable. That might be more times than none. But tell them you love them anyway. Show them that you love them and you give a damn about them, and they will love you too. So in a few moments, my friend, you will be ordained by the First Unitarian Church of Columbus, the First Unitarian Church of Richmond. May you serve the people of this congregation, the people of the Unitarian and Universalist Association, with esteem, integrity, dignity, and grace. Love your people, Kelli, and they will love you too. May this be so. And now we will hear from the First UU Church of Richmond singers as they sang, "Draw the Circle Wide."
Draw In this wide circle, please join me in a spirit of prayer and meditation. Spirit of life, God of many names and beyond all understanding. Though we've come together today to witness and bless Kelli's ministry, we pause here so that we, each and all, may be witnessed and blessed. Though we cannot understand the ground of all being, we can be upon the ground under us, and we can feel it supporting our bodies. And we can imagine the great love in that ground and above us, a great love encircling us, a great love spiraling into the center of our circle, where our attention rests today on Kelli. A great love rippling outward beyond this gathering to those who are not here now. Great love, help us not only imagine you, but to know you, to feel you in our strong, in our aching bodies. Great love, help us feel you in our minds, be they steady and calm or busy and questioning. God, beyond all understanding, hold us gently in the truth of this present moment. This moment is all we can be certain of, and we choose to be here together. Help us choose again to be here now. And again, we make the choice to be here now. In the sacred space, in the sacred moment, for sacred work together. So I invite you to breathe with this awareness here on the breath in, now on the breath out for a few moments. And as we breathe, our hearts beat. Our hearts beat, each to our own rhythm, but synchronizing with our shared intention this afternoon. With our beats, each in our own way, we bless this gathering. We bless Kelli. We bless Kelli's family, those closest to her who have blessed her, who have carried her here. And we bless all those that Kelli loves, that Kelli serves today, and all who she will continue to serve throughout her long ministry. Great love, here we are. Let each of us know, here I am, love. Here we are, love. Here we are. May we ever be so. Blessed be. Amen. And now I invite forward the First Unitarian Universalist Church choir to sing for us.
In the Unitarian Universalist tradition, the authority to ordain ministers rests solely with our congregations. It is the people of our communities gathered for sacred purpose who recognize the divine at work and call that spirit out from one of their own, setting that person aside and conferring a sacred charge upon them, that of ordained ministry. It is by our choice, consecrated by the relationships we share, that we entrust them with the lifelong task of ministering to this world and its people, both within our congregations and beyond.
Today, in the tradition of our free church, we who are gathered here have the honor and duty of adding another minister to the lineage of clergy that reaches far back in time and far forward into the future. The act of ordination bestows the authority of religious leadership, the title of reverend, and the privilege to wear a stole and bear the responsibilities of that mantle.
Kelli, you have prepared yourself with deep contemplation, study, and experience that have equipped you for this vocation. You have shared your gifts with our congregations and have been welcomed into preliminary fellowship by the Ministerial Fellowship Committee of our Unitarian Universalist Association.
Are you now ready and willing
to
accept the mantle of ordained ministry?
I am.
Thank God. Don't report me. As the teaching congregation where Kelli recognized her call and learned to serve in the ministry of our tradition, by vote of the board and affirmation of our membership, our congregation has chosen to ordain you, Kelli McNeal. Will the members, my beloved members and friends of the First Unitarian Universalist Congregation Church of Richmond, both here and watching from afar, please rise in body or spirit.
As the congregation where Kelli has served for the last several years, falling in love with the work of ministry and continuing to learn how to live into her call, the members of our congregation have voted to ordain Kelli McNeal.
Will the members of the First Unitarian Universalist Church of Columbus, both here and online, please rise in body or in spirit?
We invite you now to speak the words of ordination, which will appear on your screen. Proceed, members of the First Unitarian Universalist Church of Richmond,
And we, the members of the First Unitarian Church of Columbus,
joyfully ordain you, the Reverend Kelli McNeal, to the ministry in our covenantal tradition.
may you minister with your whole self,
Heart, body, mind, and spirit. May you always speak the truth as you know it, demonstrating humility, curiosity, and courage. May you minister with love, justice, and compassion. Be a witness to the living tradition of our faith, and be faithful in service of healing the world.
we pledge to be with you in the spirit of shared ministry
and to offer wisdom
and compassion.
With gratitude and joy, I humbly take up the ministry to which you ordain me.
I pledge to speak the truth with love, to raise my voice for those who cannot speak, and in all ways to embody our principles with love, graciousness, humility, and passion. May I continue to thrive in this ministry and elicit love, compassion, and integrity from myself and all others to create a world worthy of all living beings. I know, like those who came before me and those who will come after, that I cannot do this work alone. I ask for your love and support as I take up this ministry.
Will Kelli's family, friends, and colleagues please rise in body or spirit and affirm this ordination by repeating after me. With joy and pride, we affirm this ordination. We have encouraged and comforted you. As you worked and prepared for this day. We offer our continuing love and support. May your ministry nourish you. And be a source of inspiration and healing in the world.
We now invite all those present to rise in body or spirit to join in the affirmation of this ordination. We celebrate you now.
We celebrate you now.
As a Unitarian Universalist minister.
As a Unitarian Universalist minister.
And affirm your ordination. As the Reverend Kelli McNeal.
As the Reverend Kelli McNeal.
May your ministry nourish and sustain you. And may it be a blaze of light and warmth. A well of depth.
A well of depth.
And healing justice.
And healing justice.
In the world. Amen and blessed be.
Amen and blessed be. You may be seated. Kelli, you may not be seated. We don't have a huge number of rituals and symbols in our faith. Ours is a simple faith, and yet the bestowing of a stole to a minister who has been ordained by a congregation represents this rite of passage in the ministerial call. It helps identify those who have received that call and who have followed their hearts in pursuit of that call. And it is tradition that the stole come, of course, from the congregation, or in this case, congregations, that have ordained the ordinand. And so both of our congregations are ready to bestow this gift so everyone will know that you are the Reverend Kelli McNeal. It is with great pleasure and a high honor for me to present to you the stole made by the Richmond Quilters, that's Quilters, true, who designed and created this with beautiful colors that represent the lovely environment of Richmond, Virginia, and the beautiful James River beside which our congregation sits.
And Nancy McDonald Kenworthy, the artist who made the stole from First UU Columbus, is going to say a couple of words.
Kelly, I made this in all silks that are representing the swirls of the future, the 20th century directions that you're going, and I'm very happy to make this for you.
Could we sing together the first verse of Wake Now My Senses? Widening the circle. Here I am, Lord. Do you love your people? Can you feel the power that's in this room today? It's amazing. I have to go home soon because my heart has been beating so fast that I'm worried. Not really. This is the joy of an ordination. And so this is the part of the laying on of hands. It is so wonderful to be together after our years of viruses and racial reckoning and climate disasters, to see one another face to face and to welcome those who are here virtually. So we will lay on the hands in respect for what we have been through. I would ask you just to rub your hands like we did when we were children. Like you feel that heat and you feel that energy. And the physicists and the theologians together tell us that energy goes much farther around the world than we would ever guess. We feel that energy, and the Taoists call it qi. It is the energy from within us, and it represents us. Our hands are so symbolic. They reach out. If we look at our hands carefully, we see the signs of life. We see the wounds and the cuts. We remember the caresses and the hands that we've held. These are the symbols that we use today to bless Kelly. And so as I invite Kelly and her family to come stand on the chancel with me, I would ask her colleagues, her friends, and the congregation from, Kelly, would you come up higher so we can see you? I know you're very tall. Her colleagues and friends and congregants from both of the capital cities, both Richmond and Columbus, I would invite you to take that energy that you have felt and combine that in the Hindu mudra of Namaste. It is from within that energy that our personal energy flows to touch Kelli and to bless her. Kelli, ministry is an active practice. It's an active prayer. It's a commitment to see beyond limitations, to believe in the ground under our common feet, the dreams that lead us forward. Ministry is a spiritual discipline renewed each day and each moment. Kelli, it is with this belief in your ministry that we together as a body of people who know you, who know your call, gather to bless you. This is a prayer of action. Please feel the power made manifest in this moment, in this blessing. You have reached, Reverend Kelli, this moment through intelligence and spirit and sometimes sheer grit. May the Spirit of God walk beside you and reside within you. And may you never forget from whom your calling has come. May you remember the partnership of ministry and the strength and the power, the protection, the generosity, and the hospitality that is made real through hands and spirit. With our hands, we bless you. From this place, we walk with you. We see the God in you. We see the God in one another. We are indeed one. Thank you. And now, let's sing the second verse of Wake Now My Senses. We regret that Reverend Pat Owen couldn't be here to extend the hand of kinship. Kelli, this tradition is a large one. It goes back 400 years and it will go 4 million years into the future. It is much bigger than this gathering, and it is felt around the world. We, individually, and we as a gathered group share the responsibility of keeping that fire lit. In the Hebrew tradition, it says that Moses found a bush on fire, and he said, "Here I am, Lord." He didn't run away fast enough either, and neither did you. So you are here in this call to partnership in ministry. Would you come a little closer so I can reach you? Can we do this? This is a strong, strong hand clasp that represents all the ministers behind us, all the ministers going forward. We are a tradition that often agrees, sometimes doesn't agree, but is always, as we were reminded by Reverend Sherman, we are always a part of one another. We are always in growth together. Kelli, this ministry is a fabulous thing. It is a joy to work with lay leaders and with other clergy. It is a joy to keep that chalice lit where you find yourself now and going forward. Keep that chalice lit in here and all around you. blessings on your ministry from so many of us. We walk with you. Can I hug you? Guess what we're going to sing next?
Good afternoon, friends. I am so honored to join you all in Columbus, even if virtually, on this wonderful occasion, the ordination of the Reverend Kelli McNeal. I am the Reverend Walter Clark, and I serve the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Wayne County, just right down the road from y'all in Worcester, Ohio. And I have the honor this afternoon of offering the charge to minister and my good friend and colleague, Reverend Kelli. So Kelli, it's been my honor to know you since around 2016, when you were just starting out in the Richmond congregation and where I just finished my internship. And I remember you had made yourself quite at home in the office with your Ohio State blanket and a multitude of multi-color pens that you used to make the most beautiful and color-coordinated notes in staff meetings. I remember you being a little shy initially, especially when it came to preaching. And I got to watch you not only just grow out of that shyness, but transform into this dynamic preacher. Kelli, you have a toughness and a presence that belies your stature. And if I were to pick a word that sums you up, your power, your toughness, your tenacity, it would be survivor. Kelli, you are a survivor. And so my first charge to you is that you put aside that role of survivor. You cannot just merely survive anymore. Now, don't get me wrong, there are a lot of really good qualities about being a survivor that you are still going to need. Ministry is filled with unexpected curveballs and baptisms of fire, and your survivor skills will serve you well, as they already have. You will always be able to call on those skills when you need. You don't have to give them up. However, in ministry, there are times when we are called to meet those tough challenges head on instead of letting them come to us. The biggest difference between a survivor and a warrior is that a warrior trusts their instincts when a survivor is unsure of their own power. How many survivors do we know of are strong people who have just been told their entire lives that they are not as strong as they actually are? Kelli, know your strength. This world, our ministry, needs it more than you may realize. My second charge to you, Reverend Kelli, is to remember that you do not do this alone. You have colleagues that are here for you. Even if we can't be here in person, we find ways to show up for you. Our mutual mentor, the Reverend Jean Pupke, told us both about the House of Rabel. Rabel, of course, referring to her mentor, the late Peter Rabel. And Jean told us that the rule in the house of Rabel is that when a colleague asks you for something, you say yes. You show up for your fellow ministers. The reason for that is that this role of ministry can be such a lonely one. It is hard to find others who fully understand the complexity of this work. And while, Kelli, you do have a slight advantage by having a spouse who is also a minister, Jay, on his own, is not enough. Sorry, Jay. Kelli, I know that you will be the first to answer that call in the house of Rabel when someone else needs help. I know that you will be the first to show up for others. And my charge to you is not to deny your colleagues the opportunity to do the same for you. We all grow when we work through hardships together. That is what gives the house of Rabel such a strong foundation. And lastly, Kelli, I want you to remember who is in charge. It's a question that a lot of us get wrong, and by us I mean Unitarian Universalists, due to our congregational polity, right? We can see that neither the minister, nor the congregation, nor the board are in charge, even though those three tend to be the answers that most people give when asked who's in charge. With respect to the leadership of the UUA and our national denominations and our friends on 24 Farnsworth Street, our national leadership isn't in charge either. Now, Kelli, you know that if this were a Christian, a purely Christian denomination, we could answer that question, who's in charge? Like that. All we do is done to lift up the glory of God, right? That's the Christian charge. They know who's in charge. For us to put that in a UU context, it is our mission that is in charge. The mission that we as Unitarian Universalists all work toward. It is the values that we hold, the hope for that truly beloved community, examining everything through the lens of justice, equity, interconnectedness, and grace. You and I both know, Kelli, what the first rule of ministry is: to love your congregation. And I tell you, that love, that is what's in charge. That is always our mission: to love the hell out of the world. Never forget that, Kelli. You got this.
So we've said these words a lot today, that only a congregation has the right to ordain. But where did this even come from, and what exactly does it mean? I remember at the conclusion of my own ordination walking out these doors to notice a man in the back row weeping. He said to me, "I can't believe what I just did. Me, Jim from Cleveland. I just ordained a minister, not the bishop. Me, Jim from Cleveland." He was in awe of it. And it was a beautiful thing for me to witness in that moment. But how did that happen? How did Jim from Cleveland come to have so much power? Well, there's a language that goes back to the 4th century of the church that speaks about the authentic note of the church. The authentic note of the church is that measure of authenticity upon which everything else must be based. The measure of authenticity upon which all spiritual power and authority is derived. For many traditions and for many centuries, that authority lay with tradition, tradition as interpreted and policed by the church hierarchy. Our ancestors made a different decision. Our ancestors felt that the authentic note of the church was only the people acting in concert. So only a congregation has the right to ordain. I do worry sometimes that the way we do ordinations might actually send a slightly different note, right? Because we ministers get really excited about ordination, right? I hear their donuts, that's good. And I don't often wear my yellowing velvet. We're genuinely delighted to be here and to welcome a new colleague into our ranks. How beautiful is that? And even that, though, is not the primary purpose for our gathering. Our primary purpose is to remember that this power belongs to you, good people of Columbus and Richmond. This ministry, you have inducted Kelli into ministry. This ministry will continue to belong to you. So we've done this thing. We've taken Kelli and we've put her into the stream of the living tradition that goes from past to present and future. So I am here to remind you that the care for this ministry is continuous. It's not cool to dump her into the stream and not pay any attention until she gets out some many miles later. No, you need to set up those stations of rest and care and along the way. And you need to remember none of this matters if it's not mutual. You each have love, respect, and care to offer to each other. So remember to support this ministry by supporting this minister. And don't forget that in asking and answering questions about ministry, you as congregations form this church. The authentic note lies in you. You reflect in your choice of ministry what matters most to you about Unitarian Universalism. You create the future. And so please don't stay too far away from the hard things. Even the hard things will remind you of your strength when you do not shy away from them. You can find the patterns that lie in them, and you can be stronger. I also just want to say, as someone who comes to you from a congregation that is neither Richmond nor Columbus, please know and understand the love and the care of your sister congregations in this moment, but also in your shared ministry going forward. We've talked about what it means to love a people. There's a corollary to that, and it's an important one. We have to be a people willing to accept, love, and care. And so please, accept my love and my blessings on your shared ministry with Kelli for now and for the future.
I'm going to try and get through this without crying, but I brought my tissues just in case. I feel truly honored to be standing here before you all today. It has been a long journey to get to this point, and everyone here in this room and watching online have guided me in one way or another along this journey. So thank you. When Reverends Jean and Sherman initially started nudging me closer and closer to the pulpit, I thought they had lost their minds. I couldn't even give a presentation in class without shaking and being close to tears. Was I ready for this responsibility? Was I capable of following in the footsteps of the amazing ministers who I've gotten to work with and learn from? Through my journey to this point right now, I've learned a lot. I've made mistakes, and I've grown. Being in ministry means that, yes, you get to do a lot of talking, but more importantly, you get to do a lot of listening and a lot of learning. And what I've learned most goes back to the most important lesson that Reverend Jean Pupke taught to all of her students: love your people. I think Reverend Jean's teaching is so much bigger than a lesson heard by those of us who were lucky enough to learn from her. Love your people is at the core of who we are called to be as human beings in relationship with one another. It is in the ways that we continue to show up, support, have healthy debate, learn from, and grow with one another that we live into our principles and our drive to make this a place that is welcoming and just for all. This is what I will do with my ministry and the trust that you have given me. I will continue to show up for and with you, to support you, to have healthy debate with you, to learn from you, and to grow with you. I hope that we can covenant to do this together. Ministry is bigger than one person. It's broader than whether you have Reverend in front of your name or not. And a lot of times, those of us with Reverend in front of our names don't get it right and fail to act in ways that we preach from the pulpit. But that's why I am so grateful that we are a covenantal people. Ministry, like covenant, does not flow in one direction. It's about relationships. It's about understanding and listening and being in right relationship with one another and holding each other accountable to what we say we believe. Love your people. Whatever our future holds, whatever comes our way, know that we are doing this together because that is what we are called to do. Today is not an end to one person's journey. It's an invitation for all of us to take this adventure together. In the spirit of doing this together, may we never take for granted what it truly means to be on this covenanted, sacred journey. May we love with all our heart, mind, and strength. May we lift each other up, speak up when we see injustice, and may we all make it part of our ministries to carry on Reverend Jean's lesson: love your people. Amen. Blessed be. If you will please join me as we extinguish our chalice. The words will appear on the screen. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of vision. As we go forth, let us heal and transform ourselves and our world through reason and love. As we close for this afternoon, I invite you to stay rising in body and spirit as we join in singing Building a New Way. When this hymn is finished, please sit and enjoy the postlude. It's a fantastic postlude. Ushers will dismiss you by row when Nathan is finished playing. Thank you for all being here and for helping us celebrate this sacred moment. There are lots of goodies in Beach Hall for you to enjoy, and I look forward to chatting with you all